Hello one, hello all, welcome to another Dread Tidings. Yes, it's time for another look at something remarkably 80s this time. It's actually a follow-on from a video I did a little while back for the Masters of the Universe annuals. A lot of people came to me and said, Glenn, obviously there were more than one franchise operating at that time that did annuals. So I thought, yeah, let's do Beano and Dandy. I'm joking, it's not Beano and Dandy at all. It is, of course, the Transformers annuals. Now then, a lot of people have asked me for these, so I thought, why not? Let's have a look. So we have today, we're going to be having a look at the Transformers annual from 1985. Transformers annual from 1986. That's that one. You wouldn't think it is, but it is. Just get it ready shot there. Transformers annual from 1987. 1988. And 1989. There's a lot of them. And unlike the Masters of the Universe ones, actually relevant most of the time as well. Because Transformers was a weird one. It sort of transformed. It's evolved, shall we say. It evolved. Whereas Masters of the Universe kind of ish. Sousson was sort of dead. Not dead, but sort of done by about 1987. Transformers was relevant till about 1992. When they stopped sort of being sold in huge numbers, and sort of that's when G2 came about. And really, I haven't got the G2 annual. It's something I've always wanted but never had, so I can't do that today. But I can knock the camera off. No, I can start with this, the Transformers annual from 1985. You wouldn't think so to look at it. It's very, very early G1, so we would be thinking 84, but there wasn't one in 84. There was one in 85. It's a very normal, bog-standard annual cover. And in this company, did it. Grand Dreams. It was Marvel UK, but it was mainly Grand Dreams. It says there, Marvel / Grand Dreams. Grand Dreams were the other company that did annuals. The other one was World Industries. I love the little logo. If you make it out, it's a little girl and a little boy stood on a stile, or sat on a stile. Very cutesy, altogether not what you would expect of Transformers at all. But yeah, this is Marvel UK's first effort. And somebody's already coloured stuff in from the character Bible artwork there. And it is... says there, this is Optimus Prime, noble leader of the Autobots. He can transform himself from a tractor trailer into a robot. No shit, Sherlock. And this apparently belonged to Paul Price. Sorry, Paul, I've got your annual. But you can see there, look, Transformers annual, published by Marvel Comics, 1985 by Hasbro Industries. So let's have a look. Well, you've got some classic box art to start off with, and some I am the mighty Megatron, leader of the Decepticons, cunning and ruthless. I shall not rest until I have conquered the Autobots and rule Earth and Cybertron. One thing I've noticed about Megatron's art there, his hand there looks gimpy and not right for some reason. I don't know what's going on there. It never looked right to me. But then, of course, you've got some character bios going forward. Pretty cool stuff. I am Skywarp. I love to attack the Autobots. I also like to play cruel pranks on my fellow Decepticons. Really, I am Soundwave, and it's a radio link for the Decepticons. I can read minds too, and blackmail is my weapon, although you'll never see it ever on anything. But never mind. And for the Autobots, they couldn't be bothered, so they just took pages from the comic in America and just put that on the pages, because they couldn't be bothered. I love that though. Love that. Ironhide's ready to roll, Optimus. I may be old and cantankerous, but my steel alloy skin hasn't been dented yet in battle. And I've got a bunch of new liquids to test out in my water gun. Oh, Buddy Ansky's dialogue. As I only require a drop of fuel to run, I am ready and willing to explore the entire planet, Optimus. Dear. Yeah, you've seen it. If you've ever read the comic, then you've seen this page, and you know how goofy it is. Now, this is a bit of a treat. This is A Plague of Insecticons, the Simon Furman story, where basically the Insecticons, well, the Autobots are going to go see President Reagan, look, President Reagan, to basically have an entente or a détente or whatever you want to call it. And the Decepticons send the Insecticons to muck it up and muck it about. So you've got not the best diplomatic envoy in Warpath there, but you've got Prowling Optimus, and the Autobots are coming to town. So it's very good artwork. Unlike a lot of these things, you actually do see, because it's Marvel, you see Furman, and it was Collins and Anderson did the artwork there. Richard Starkins did the letters. Colours were by Hart and Eddie. So at that point in Marvel UK Transformers history, it was Sheila Cranner. But yeah, I mean, this is where it will, for some people, fall down. It's the 80s comic G1 artwork, which a lot of people don't really like. I love it, but then I grew up on it. What can you say, really? You've got Optimus Prime and Ronald Reagan there. Iconic. And then enter Striking Insecticons, Strike Hard. Bombshell speaking there. Don't know why. I mean, effectively, I suppose it's Ravage, because Ravage is supposed to be controlling them at this point. In the name of the Autobots, kill them all. Oh, they're doing an old switcheroo and making the humans think that the Autobots are evil. More on that later. So yeah, the artwork in this, obviously you can tell very, very much, especially by that picture there. It's very G1 toy Optimus that they're going for. Because the humans are, they look fine, but the Autobots and Decepticons, especially Soundwave, look, that's very toy evocative. Megatron again with the sometimes gold chest that he had for some reason. Don't know why he had that. But yeah, you can tell, obviously, some of them look like the G1 cartoon, some of them don't, some of them look like the toys. And then you get this weird thing. Transformers name and face match. You got to match the Autobot to the face. So you got Wheeljack, well, that's obviously him. You got Optimus Prime, yeah, that's him. You got Bumblebee over there. Again, very G1 toy, effectively. Some of them aren't. Some of them, that's comic Megatron there, look. And they're comics Seekers as well. But then you got Wheeljack, who has no eyes, no face, effectively. Very, very odd. And then the story continues. It just picks up. This is a very weird one because you'll see in a minute, the stories just sort of stop and then start again, and they're continued on other pages. That's especially, I love that. You never saw destruction on such a grand scale in the cartoon so much, but you did in the Marvel UK comics because, we love dystopian stuff. Insecticons, again, coloured very oddly. Coloured very strangely, not coloured like we'd normally expect them to be. Prowl there, looking really good. Actually, I like Prowl, how he looks. Find the exact outline of the fastest Autobot Cliff Jumper. Yeah, at one point Cliff Jumper was supposed to be the fastest Autobot, so I'll let you decide. And comments. Which one do you think is the proper Cliff Jumper? Now then, tech stories. Some Transformers tech stories were amazing. Most of them were pretty good. This is Missing in Action. This is the first part of a two-part story that would end in the next annual, oddly enough. When I say two-part story, I mean sequel, really, don't I? Trax being punched by Rumble, who has grown in size massively. What's going on with Trax's face? I don't know. Rumble, however, and that is Rumble. See the colours, people? See what colours he is? He's red. There, look, there's red. And then he's black. Because Rumble is red and black. Anyway, moving on. Again, very, very good artwork in this. This story is effectively about a kid who gets caught up in some Transformers action and kind of becomes a bit obsessed with them. It's this kid here. He's called Danny. And there he is with Trax. Trax unable to transform. And again, another puzzle. They do love puzzles in this one. Disadvantage has one serious flaw, the fact that they can fly the Decepticons. Unscramble in the word boxes what that is. You can tell. Right. Moving on. Another Decepticon matchup. They loved their bloody matchups, didn't they? Again, from the comics mainly. These comic models. But see if you can match them up. There we go. There shall come a leader. This is an iconic Transformers story. Basically, it shows the ascension of Optimus Prime from normal Autobot to leader of the Autobots. The artwork isn't the best. It was John Stokes, I think, who did it. Yeah, John Stokes. He's the guy who did Man of Steel for the Transformers comic in the UK. There's some good artwork in there. There's some, first appearance of Emmerich Zaron. Yeah, he's been around a while, Zaron. And then they do this. They continue the story on other pages. And that's the tech story we've just left. That is quite an iconic picture of Inferno. Looking really, really good, holding Danny in his arms. And Danny sort of becomes obsessed with the Autobots from that point. And then Optimus Prime, Cybertronian mode, apparently. Blue Streak. And his Blue Streak's friend dying. Oh, sorry, it's not Optimus Prime, it's Fusion. Totally lie. That's Fusion. This is why Blue Streak is traumatized by war, because his mate Fusion's destroyed. And yeah, Optimus Prime, that again, iconic image there. And yeah, it all becomes... That is a good picture of Megatron. No matter what you think of G1 comic art, that's a good picture of Megatron. And it's all very iconic. That's Gears, apparently. It's sort of a takeoff on the bridge on the with Kwai, because Gears is going to destroy a bridge for the Autobots. Because Gears' function is demolitions. And Optimus Prime gets trashed, and Gears thinks he's going to have to do it on his own, and he doesn't, effectively. Because Windcharger gets him. And yeah, saves him, and Optimus Prime lives to fight another day and goes on to beat the Decepticons, or does he? And then they have an Autobot match the vehicle. And you can sort of tell there's a lot to do. I mean, it's a weighty old annual, is this? You've got a game, their hexagonal attack on Castle Decepticon, brilliant. In the age-old conflict between the Autobots and Decepticons, the fighting aims backwards and forwards. Play this game with dice and markers, starting at the starting point. Throw the dice, then move through the right-numbered side of the hexagon for direction. First to get to the red castle wins. And some decidedly shonky artwork on that one. And then another text story, Hunted. Great picture of Ravage stalking a human there. Nice picture of Prowl. Again, text stories very, very... sort of regular for these sort of annuals. They didn't take a lot. Well, they did take a lot of space, and they were cheap to produce. Nice picture of Bumblebee fighting a snake there. I do like that. I don't know why. I do like it. Then Hover's word maze on the other side. It's word search. More pictures there. You got Twin Twist and Prowl fighting off the Decepticon jets. Hound Scrambled word message. If you know what it is, down below. Don't cheat. Don't cheat. Open that up. And then all the way from page 18, you got the continuation of A Plague of Insecticons. It's amazing. Shrapnel. Using his weapon. Shrapnels. Something was setting off facial recognition, and I don't know what it was. It's not doing it again. I think it's Prowl's face. Prowl getting shot. And Warpath saying, "Curse you! Curse you all!" And Roller being used. Very rare Roller was ever used in the UK comics. But there he is. There he's being used. He's actually integral to the plot. Optimus Prime using the unsubtle approach, he says. Warpath going batshit crazy there. And Shrapnel getting destroyed by Roller. Ravage being shown as the insidious guy behind everything. Ravage could speak in the comics. People don't remember that, but he could. Obviously not in the cartoons at all. And everybody getting their wires crossed. Shrapnel going to destroy Optimus Prime. Broly getting destroyed. Prime curling up in agony. And Ravage. I hated this as a kid. It freaked me out. So Ravage gets hit by Bombshell. Bombshell inserts a cerebro shell into Ravage's brain. Ravage was controlling Bombshell, so as it says there, the cerebro shell takes effect immediately. Ravage falls under the mental control of Bombshell. Unfortunately, Bombshell himself was under the control of Ravage. The resultant mental void leaves Ravage quite literally without a mind of his own. Freaky. Freaky, freaky, freaky. And then the epilogue, basically. Optimus Prime and Prowl and Warpath run off. And because they run off, they don't confront Ronald Reagan, because they think they're doing the right thing, just leaving the humans alone. But Reagan says because they didn't come back and own up to everything, he can't afford to make such a mistake again, trusting the Autobots. So yeah, quite a depressing downer ending. But then it is a British annual, and then you've got Ratchet to the rescue. Very fine with the answer page and a colouring picture of Megatron. That's the 1995 annual. Moving on to 1986. Now, this was the year of the movie. So by the time we got this annual, this guy was dead. Oh, sorry, by the time this annual would have been relevant again, sorry, at the start of the year, he wasn't dead, but he would have been by the end of the year. Now, this picture, quite iconic. I think it was used in, I'm pretty sure it was used, or a similar picture was used for the sticker album of that year as well. So, very, very cool. Definite up in quality here. Grand Dreams are still doing it. With Marvel, doing it. and you get this great picture of the Dinobots in some sort of Arctic setting. Very, very nice. Love it to bits. This is great. Look at it. £3.50. Yeah, about £7 now. And then you get this lovely picture. This is the one I remember most when I was a kid, is this one. And yeah, that picture, especially this bit, love it. It doesn't belong to anybody. I haven't nicked somebody's childhood. And then you get this great thing, which is called In the Beginning. And basically it's a conceit. It's a story about a guy called Adam Reynolds, who's a kid, using a computer. He's a hacker, and he hacks into the wrong computer. He hacks into the Decepticons' computer. And basically, he finds out all about what's happened in the story of the Transformers so far, which is basically the story of the comics. So he just takes you through everything there. It got a great picture of, recognise that one from the last comic, Then There Shall Come a Leader. Dinobot Hunt over there. You've got Frenzy. Yes, that's Frenzy in Autobot Buster. And it basically just goes and tells you everything that's happened in the comics so far. It was invaluable as a kid, was this, because I didn't have all the comics. I mean, I do now, in one form or another, but there was so much of it, and you just didn't see it. Guardian there, Optimus Prime when Shockwave stole his head, and then Dinobot Hunt again, I think. And then, basically what happens in the end of the story is that the Decepticon computer, don't know how it does this, Decepticon computer builds up a 1 million vote, I think it is, 1 million votes. So when he presses enter to print, then basically the feedback causes 1 million volts to destroy his computer. So that he will never know, and he'll never be able to prove anything. But anyway, he wonders if the Autobots have a computer. And this is a weird one, To a Power Unknown. The artwork in this is a bit odd. It's Will Simpson who does it, but it's a bit messy because the colouring's not great. It's actually by a couple of guys called Ian Mennell and Wilf Prigmore. I'm guessing one of those is Simon Furman. Probably. It's all about, it's a very Cold War story. So the Autobots are doing what they do, which is being nice to people, and then something happens, a power surge, and then they all get turned into bad guys, and it's the same with the Decepticons. They all get turned into good guys. And basically what it is, they trace the signal of this thing to a man-made installation on the British Isles. They all go to the British Isles, of course they do. And it turns out basically it's something called PARD. Professor Purnell is testing something called PARD, which is Purnell's auto-reverse defence system. So basically it'll turn people's missiles back on each other through the use of electronic signals. And it's basically turning the Transformers' natures against themselves. It's quite a nice story. The artwork's a bit sort of haphazard, but as a kid, you sort of get used to it. Turns out that there's a guy called Heilman, who's a spy, and he's going to take the plans off to some evil foreign and turn it all against us. And the Autobots and Decepticons get caught up in it. Now, I always remember it for this bit. Now, this panel here will mean nothing to you if you're American. Basically, because the signal is messing with the Transformers, they do get TV signals. One of them is Coronation Street. On there you have Bet, and on the other half you have William Roach, Ken Barlow, that's his name. I don't really watch it. But Ken Barlow, who's been in Transformers, amazing. It also says, Doctor, it's the Daleks, exterminate. I don't think that's ever been said, ever. But it's also notable for a human getting killed. The guy called Heilman nicks Jazz, who's sort of stuck in car mode. Starscream goes after him. Starscream takes him in his cockpit. And in the course of the battle, Jazz fires off a heat-seeking missile. And it says here, from flaming jet to cold metal, in an instant, the only heat source is Zeke Heilman himself. And he gets blown up. He actually gets killed by an Autobot. And what do? They don't even acknowledge it. They just start fighting each other again. So the British jets come for them, and they decide to run away. And, basically, they all have to run away, retreat, whatever they do, and then that happens. That's quite silly. It's then got an Optimus Prime data file, basically. It's a profile of Optimus Prime. And the return of the Transformers. If you remember Danny from the last story there he is. There's Danny. It's all about him basically searching for the Autobots. That picture for you again. Searching for the Autobots. And it's also about the aerial bots who again are relevant this time, and relevant today as well. It's all about them working together to try and stop the Decepticons. Great picture of Skywop looking for Danny. So Danny finds the Decepticons, and basically a big battle ensues where Superion basically destroys the hotel that Danny and his mum are staying in. Danny becomes completely disillusioned with the Transformers at this point and says, you know, it doesn't matter who you are, you're just a bunch of twats and you're wrecking Earth for your own purposes, and you don't really realise that you're treading on people. It's very mature themes for a Transformers annual from 1987. From 1986. It's very unexpected, and it's why I like Marvel UK so much, because it did deal with it in a bit more of a mature way than maybe America did, because we got this, America got Robot Master, you know? You then get the Transformers 3-play quiz, basically a big old quiz where you can get something. So get questions and answer questions, become an ultimate Transformers fan. So you got Snarl smacking the crap out of the Guardian there. You got the Constructicons, and you got GB Blackrock, who interestingly enough should have been Tony Stark. But they basically weren't allowed to use Tony Stark, so they did him instead. Then you got all the answers to that. Great picture of Optimus, love that. And a Jeff Senior picture of Megatron, which is setting off my facial recognition, which is amazing. Love that when that happens. And then this important story called State Games. Basically, this is, it says there, A Tale from Cybertron, and it's basically the story of how Megatron became Megatron. Megatron, as we all sort of are aware, either way you go, he was either minor or a gladiator, or both. This basically says he was a gladiator from the start, and it's basically his rise to power and sort of the start of the Decepticons. He is already majorly disillusioned with the Autobots, and it's full of political intrigue and about Ravage wanting Megatron to lead, and Emirate Zaron, and all sort of intercity sort of rivalry almost between Voss and Tarn and places like that on Cybertron, and Iacon being sort of the main city, and Voss and Tarn getting pissed off with that. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting. And it ends up with this great scene with the Overlord of the Transformers begging Megatron for fuel, and Megatron basically saying no, and Ravage turning to Megatron. And it's just amazing. If you haven't never read the story, please read the story. It's amazing. It really tells you a lot about Megatron and where Megatron comes from. Megatron playing on bitterness and the pissed off nature of Autobots or non-Autobots who just couldn't stand the Autobot rule, the old order. You can sort of understand why the Decepticons became the Decepticons in a way. Much, way ahead of its time, because now that sort of current is that sort of stuff. Moving on, we've got a great story called Victory, which is a little sort of a coda to Dinobot Hunt, really. Obviously, the Dinobots had sort of like a robo-virus which prevented them from waking up. And it turns out the reason they can't wake up is because their own nature is not letting them. They keep having dreams of victory, so Grimlock here, slicing Megatron in half completely. Jeff Senior, great artwork by Jeff Senior. And it's basically Grimlock sort of tearing through the Decepticon ranks, beating them all except for Starscream. Inherently, the Dinobots, although they are cocky and arrogant and everything that they are insecure enough to die in their dreams and never win in their dreams. And all that's left is darkness and voices. That especially is it's an awful image of Grimlock just destroyed. And it's the same with Swoop. Swoop gets Soundwave in his jaws, carries him off. Soundwave can't allow himself to be humiliated in front of his own troops, so he blows himself up rather than be captured. Same with Sludge. Sludge's main failing is love for a human, which he'd met. She was a journalist who never showed much interest in him, but he loved her. He actually fell in love with her. And what happens? Turns out, oh no, she's a Decepticon facsimile construct who destroys him. Boo! And Snarl there, destroying Guardian, knocking his head off, but Guardian coming back alive and destroying Snarl. And then finally, Slag destroying Shockwave, but getting destroyed himself in the tar pit. And yeah, it turns out they just can't wake up because they won't allow themselves to wake up. It's as simple as that. Great story, really brilliant story. Do read it. And then finally another text story. Great picture of Jazz and Hoist there. Love that. Again, great picture. Jazz and Hoist. You can't see Hoist's face very well there because the binding gets in the way. It's all about them trying to sort out a mission and complete a mission for the Autobots. Good text story. Very, very good. You then got a Decepticon Who's Who, which is very cool. Pause that if you want to read it. Good stuff. And then you see the same thing for the Autobots, the Autobot Who's Who. It's all about the rank and where they come in the High Command and everything. So you got Jazz, Prowl, Jetfire, Mirage in the High Command. Mirage in the High Command. Would not have seen that coming. But very, very cool. Love that annual to bits. That's the one I remember mostly from my childhood. You then come to this one, which is the Transformers Annual of 1987. Now, no Optimus Prime, because Prime is gone by this point. It is now my favourite, Magnus and Galvatron. That is a great picture. I think that's Jeff Anderson. I'm pretty sure that's Jeff Anderson. Always very good at drawing Magnus and Galvatron. And there you get a great big picture of Hunger. With that speed, strength in this, if you didn't know, is basically it's the Headmasters Annual. Headmasters had just come out and they basically wanted to show this as much as they could. But we start off with the story about Swoop, of when he was Dive Bomb, and his name was Dive Bomb. And then there was a Predacon who came along, called himself Dive Bomb, stole the name from him, humiliated him, and basically Swoop fought Dive Bomb, got his ass handed to him, and Optimus Prime saved him. And Swoop never forgave Optimus Prime for that, and he never forgave Dive Bomb for taking his name. And this is just set after the Predacons come on Earth, because Swoop gets all narky and not very happy, and says that he's using my name again, or he's still using my name. And then we get a load of text stories called Doomsday for Nebulos. It's basically the Headmasters saga, because Headmasters was the thing that year. And it's all a load of text stories about how the Headmasters came to Nebulos and how the concept came about. So obviously we've got Ape-Face there, Skullcruncher, Scorpion up there. It's all about Lord Zarek is the first part. The heads of the various. I'm pretty sure it's Trigger Happy. Trigger Happy, Skullcruncher, Scorpion and Ape-Face again. It's all about Zarek making the deal and Galen making the deal with Fort Max there. And Lord Zarek sort of realising he'd made a mistake by doing what he did. Another great big trivia quiz. Grimlock, that's all I'm saying. Good stuff. And then the answers, they always did that, but I love that picture. I love that picture. That is a great picture. And then this got a lot of people very angry at the time. Basically, in the comics, you had a big massive saga with Galvatron coming to Earth and the Fallen Angel and all that stuff. And him and Magnus, Galvatron and Magnus fought loads of times, and the story ended there. The story was picked up in this annual, and you had to buy the annual to see the end of the story. Now, a lot of people didn't like that. Didn't bother me, because I would have bought the annual anyway. But, well, they had it bought for me. But, yeah, a lot of people not very happy with that. But what are you going to do? It's a good story. It's their final, what would be their final battle. So Magnus basically saying that, I'm sick of it, I've had enough, I'm sick of fighting Galvatron. It recaps what happened. So with Death's Head, very odd picture of Death's Head there, don't like that. And yeah, Goldbug basically calling Magnus a bit of a coward for not fighting, but Magnus saying he's tired of it, he's had enough, he keeps fighting him and he's sick of it, and Goldbug goes off. Goldbug goes off to fight Galvatron. How gutty is Goldbug? I like him already. But Galvatron has the plan of basically capping a volcano, stealing all its energy, becoming powerful enough to destroy Unicron, going off and doing that, and then basically conquering the universe. Goldbug's got other ideas. And Goldbug very bravely puts up a fight for all of 2 seconds before Galvatron hands his own ass to him. And he's just about to sort of deal the final blow when Magnus comes back, and Magnus proves yet again he's a badass by getting involved in a battle he can't possibly win. Putting up a good fight, but it's Galvatron, and Galvatron was insane and crazy and really stupidly powerful in the comics. But Magnus held him off long enough to destroy the volcano and basically win by losing himself. And that's basically how they ended it, with Goldberg walking away and Magnus and Galvatron seemingly dead. They weren't. Then you've got Stylar. Stylar, if you don't know, if you're a fan of the IDW comics, Stylar is Chrome Dome's head in the Headmasters. I don't know if that'll ever happen in the comics, but hey, look, I'm an optimist. I would like to see the Headmasters actually go in. So Stylar's a bit of a, in the comics at least, he's a bit of a clothes horse, a bit of a sort of fashionista, and can't bear the fact that Chrome Dome in the original comics and his tech specs there was a bit of a nerd. It's all basically to do with that. Good picture of Brainstorm and Highbrow there. Good picture of the Decepticon Headmasters as well. And then these box art, you have these little tech specky things, which are great. Love it. Chrome Dome, there we go. Look, it says here, computer programmer. Spent several thousand years crunching numbers at Cybertron's Institute of Higher Programming before a Decepticon attack reduced it to a pile of smoking microchips. So yeah, very different than what he is in the IDW comics. Then you get Hardhead and Highbrow as well. And then a weird story called Arc Duty, with basically Ultra Magnus as the leader of Autobot City, and Rodimus, sorry, not Rodimus, Hot Rod, before he became Rodimus, basically told to do something. They know he wouldn't do it. It was basically, that was the whole plan. The Decepticons basically hand Hot Rod's ass to him. But that was the plan all along. Motormaster and the Decepticons are supposed to win. Supposed to get away with a tape with information on it that was basically bogus. And Hot Rod, rather than compound the problem by doing what he did, actually made it seem like they really did want it back. And basically convinced the Stunticons and the Decepticons more. So it all worked out in the end. Good stuff. And then the final conflict. Basically just telling the story of the final conflict before they all head off. Nebulos having basically ruined everything and Fort Max becoming a thing. Great picture of Scorponok there. Loving that. Good pictures of Cerebros and Scorponok and Fort Max having a big fight. And then heading off the planet and heading towards Earth. Cool. And then you got a good picture of Mindwipe there. And Skullcruncher and Weird Wolf. And then that picture of that. So that was the Headmasters annual, basically. The next annual, sort of post-movie kind of weirdness. It's got a great big picture of Scorponok. It sort of carries the master concept on, because at that point you had Headmasters, Power Masters, Target Masters and everything. Lovely Dan Reed picture there. You can tell it's Dan Reed because they're all sort of bendy. But I love that picture of basically it's Highbrow and Rodimus surrounded by Decepticons of all varying ilks. Great picture of the Firecons. There you go, one for Grufflock. And yeah, signed immediately. Somebody's actually blacked out all their name and address, so I can't tell you who this used to belong to. Their editor, interestingly enough, Chris Francis. That's Simon Furman. Great picture of Shockwave there, from just before he gets his head caved in by Death's Head. And then again, this is a weird one. Again, Adam Reynolds is back. Basically looking at the Autobot machine, and it's a redo of what's been going on in the comics. That's a great picture, some victory there. More stuff from the American comics. Dude, just reminds me of Andy Turnbull now, doesn't it? Straxus there. Galvatron, great Jeff Senior picture of Galvatron, and that's from Target 2006 is that one. And again, Optimus Prime. Great little weird story, art by Lee Sullivan and plot by Sam Furman. It's basically Galvatron and Megatron having a massive fight, and Galvatron trying to convince Megatron that they are one and the same and they should be on the same side. Great bits of artwork. Love that piece of artwork. Sort of Transformers movie-esque. Megatron. It's just one massive fight, really. It's really good. I really do love it. Won't linger too long on it because it's a lot of action. It's great stuff. And then finally, Megatron realizing that him and Galvatron might not be the same person. So we may not be the same person, but we do think alike. And Galvatron, he'll take it. They are the same person. He knows they're the same person. Mini poster. Don't see the point. Hate mini posters in annuals because you're not going to take it out because on the other side you've got Nautilator. Seacons this year for some reason. The Seacons were big. They were the big toy of that year that they wanted to promote, obviously. And then you've got a Power Master Prime story called Prime Bomb, where basically Scorponok sets a bomb to go off for Prime and destroys them. And you got Power Masters, you've got the Getaway, you've got Slapdash, and I always forget his name. Joyride. Is it Joyride? Possibly Joyride. Is it High Test or Throttle? Throttle. It's Throttle. He's getting punched there by one of the other Power Master engines. So yeah, Power Masters big this year. Look, Dreadwing there. Good stuff. Hotspot there. Picture of Hotspot. The Puzzle Pathway was big this year. That's the one that they wanted you to do. It's basically how to traverse the pathway. Pathway must be travelled in numbered sequence starting at 1 and ending at number 27. You must answer each successive question correctly to be able to move on to the next question. Answers on page 52. We shall not look at those. But yeah, various questions and answers that you needed to ask and answer. Good stuff. And then a silly little story called All in the Mines with Simon Furman, really exploring the headmaster concept. Dan Reed did the art, obviously, look at it. So it's basically just exploring how the headmaster system worked, at least in the West. So you've got Scorponok chasing Highbrow, Highbrow fighting back. Highbrow basically gets hypnotised eventually. Where is he? Highbrow gets hypnotised by Mindwipe and removes his head. Can't think of what he's doing, basically. So Scorponok says, well, you're quite clearly Decepticon. You're my friend. And that's what you need to do. You need to be my friend and be on my side. And Highbrow says, yeah, all right then. Until his head gets taken off. In which case, Highbrow ceases to be Highbrow and becomes, I forget his name now. Gort. There you go. His name's Gort. And Gort basically isn't hypnotised by Mindwipe, so smacks the crap out of both of those. And he's able to control Highbrow once more, or at least use his mind to help Highbrow. Rips Scorponok's head off his shoulders, leaves him in a catatonic state and walks off into the sunset with his head. That's quite cool. And then on the second page, you actually find Highbrow and Scorponok fighting. Look at the size difference, that's ridiculous. That's a Jeff Senior picture, that is. Again, more Seacons. You've got Scalar and Snaptrap. And then the ending to Prime Bomb. Great picture of Scorponok with the bomb there. I love that. Getting away, being the Harry Houdini that he's supposed to be. Power Master Prime transforming. Not the best picture. And then Prime trying to outrun the bomb that's basically headed for him. Until he can help IQ out of the water and the bomb's coming for him. But yeah, it's all good in the end, because of course it is. And then you have the answers to the puzzles, which I'm not going to give you. Love that. Love that picture of Magnus there. It's great. And then Peace. That's quite a good Transformers story. It's never really been expounded on. Basically, it's 2550, the war finally ends. The last Decepticon is killed. The Wreckers destroy them. And what happens after that? Basically, you have one Decepticon left called Triton. He's a Decepticon spy, and he decides that he's going to start the war all over again, but this time Autobot against Autobot. And he effectively, that's what he does. He gets shot himself. Yeah, Roadbuster's the first casualty. Scattershot for some reason kills him. And yeah, the war starts all over again because Triton's an asshole. And there we go. With Triton dead there, his Autobot badge slipped off. Decepticon started the war again. And this very iconic panel of Rodimus Prime, head in hands, the war started again. Then a great picture of Rodimus Prime for a mini poster, which is ridiculous again. I don't like mini posters. And then two final pictures of the last two Seacons. You've got Tentakill and Jawbreaker. And then that's it for that annual. Then we have the last annual. The last sort of G1 annual that I have. And it's Power Master Prime and Megatron, oddly enough. Power Master Prime with a very small body but a very big head. Very odd picture. Then Megatron punching through the Autobot symbol. I really like that picture. I think it's cool. This one, oh yeah, Time Wars. Last bits of the Time Wars. He lost his Transformers annual. Don't lose yours. And this is Scott Booth from 27 Talbot Drive. I don't know if he's still there. Probably not. this is the last one. So you have the quest. Now this is based on a kid doing his homework in the future on an alien planet and basically quantum leaping at certain points of Transformers, the history. And basically, yeah, it's getting us back up to speed with the Transformers history. But he's, as always, ends on a bit of a down note. He goes back, destroys the machine, because through going back, he destroys the machine that he was using to travel back in time, which is strictly forbidden. And he isn't sure whether he's changed time for himself. So basically, as Dyson wondered what he was going to tell his holo teachers the next day, a far more unpleasant thought began to rear its ugly head. What if he had altered history in an even in a tiny, almost unnoticeable way? Was this the father he'd left a few days before? Was this the world he'd left a few days before? Dysart shivered, suddenly feeling very alone in a world he'd once felt so comfortable in. Great. And then a mini poster of the Dinobots, lots of those. And then a Dinobot story, Destiny of the Dinobots by Steve White and Andy Wildman. It's basically a coda to Snarl's predicament. Now, Snarl had corrodia gravis, which was a wasting disease for Transformers. It basically meant he rusted away. And the Dinobots travelled to the Savage Land to try and find a crystal to put Snarl's mind in where they could find a new body for him. So they travelled to the Savage Land. There's poor Snarl there, look, poor Snarl. Oh, I like Snarl. Why is Snarl always ill? Why is he always put upon? So yeah, basically, they go to the Savage Land and they actually find that it's defended is this crystal. The reason it's defended is because this guy, this professor, had been using the crystal to keep in check a disease that was affecting the dinosaurs in the Savage Land. So they couldn't use it. They couldn't use it to save Snarl. But Swoop comes up with a good idea. Basically, they put Snarl's mind in an actual stegosaur while they can find him a new body or a cure for corrodia gravis. Sadly, it's never, ever resolved. Boo. Then you have the Autobot and Decepticon Duel of Wits. It's another quiz. There's nothing to really go over. And then a story about the Triggerbots, Backstreet in particular, called Trigger Happy. Basically, Backstreet causes a problem for the Autobots during a mission. He takes it personally and he decides to run away. And that's basically it. It's not the greatest story in the world, if I'm being honest. There's some nice art, some nice pictures of Backstreet and the Triggerbots there. But not much else really in this story. It's okay. I mean, it's continued on sort of 2 bits. But yeah, this is the year 1989-90 of the Micromasters, and there we go with the Race Car Patrol and the Off-Road Patrol, who I'll be having a look at in a bit, I am sure. Love Micromasters, as people might know. And then a strip there called Dreadwing Down, out by Simon Furman. Sorry, out by Dan Reed, script by Simon Furman. And it's about Dreadwing being basically pwned and falling in the ocean, and a recovery mission by the Autobots to try and get them before the Decepticons can, so they can find out all their secrets. So yeah, it's basically about that. It's quite good, and it involves the Seacons being actually in the sea, which is strange. They were never really used in the sea, but they look really good. Dan Reed draws a good Transformer. One thing that is quite funny is that the Power Masters and everything don't have the sea capabilities that the Seacons do, so they can only stay underwater for a certain amount of time before they rust and are useless, and tend to kill using his tentacles on Getaway there. Brilliant stuff. Love it. So yeah, it's just a basically great big fight with the Seacons and the Power Masters there. Really nice though. Love it. Dreadwind not really in it though. Of course, the Power Master engines only have a certain amount of time before their oxygen runs out and they die. So, but everything turns out right in the end, even though they don't really get Dreadwind and Darkwing. But Getaway starting to rust. Great big picture there of Prime and Galvatron. Basically, this is Time Wars. It's been ripped to pieces in Time Wars. And that's the answers to the Duel of Wits. And you have a mini poster of Magnus dying in the volcano. That's quite a harrowing image, that is. And then Trigger Happy Part 2. Again, some good art. The story's not great, but the art's good. You got a good picture of Sinister there. A nice picture of Scoop and Megatron. And then Backstreet and Power Master Prime being on the head with a roller coaster car or a bumper car. Very odd picture, very strange. And then that. Very good picture. Love Megatron being knocked out in a fairground. And then a weird picture. I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to be, but there you go. Decepticon jets and blast off an Astro Train. Cool. Love it. More Micromasters, the Airstrike Patrol and the Sports Car Patrol there. Really nice. Love the Micromasters, especially this era. They're my favourite. And then the final strip, which is called Chain Gang, which involves the Pretenders. The only meaningful thing they ever really did in the comics. Depressing. But again, Dan Reed, good art, Dan Reed. He's obviously caught his stride then at this point. Really nice pictures of Skullgrin and Bombburst. And yeah, just basically a big fight on an oil rig there, using their Pretender shells to their utmost capability. Very Japanese almost even. But very, very cool nonetheless. Love it. And then the final two, the Rescue Patrol and the Battle Patrol. And that, my friends, is it. That was the last entry in the Transformers annuals that I've got. There were others. I think there was one in 1990, possibly. And there was a G2 annual, certainly. But that's it, basically. That's all the Transformers annuals I have. But I love them so much because they're so diverse. You've got this one with the very simple story plague of the Insecticons there. And, you know, very simple concepts. And then at the end, you've got the Micromasters, you've got the Pretenders, you've got the Power Masters, the Headmasters, everything and everything in between there as well. It shows the complete and total evolution of the Transformers, not only the comic, but also the concept of Transformers. And just, you know, how diverse it could be, and the reason that it probably still persists to this day. But very, very cool. Thank you for joining me on that little journey. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. I hope not anyway. But obviously join me again. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next time. I've got a few Transformers toys, new ones that I want to have a look at possibly, so it may be one of those. So we shall see. But I shall be back with Tidings very, very soon. Take care of yourselves and each other. See you next time.